भज भज
चैतन्य
चैतन्य
निताय
नित्याय
सुदृढ़
सुदृढ़ विश्वास
विषयाचार्या से रसे मजिया मुखे बोलो हरि हरि
विषय चेरिया सेरा से मचिया मुखे बोलो हरि हरि
देखा ओरे भाई त्रिभुवने नाय ए मनो दयाल दाता
देखा रे भाई त्रिभुवने नाय दयाल दाता
पशु फाकी जुरे पाषाण विदरे शूनि जार गुण गाता
पशु पक्षी जुड़े पाषाण विधरे सुनिरेंद्र गुण गाता
संसारे मजिया रोहिली पोड़िया से पदे नहिलो आश
संसारे मजिया रोहिल पोलिया से पद नहिलो आशा
आपन कोरोम बुंजाये शमन कोहोये लोचंदास
अपन कर्म मुंजाए समाना कोहियो लोचन दासा
परम करुणा पाहु द्विजन निताय गौरचंद्र
परम करुणा बहु दुर्जन निताय गौरचंद्र
सब अवतार शार शिरोमणि केवल आनंद कंद
सब अवतार सार शिरोमणि केवल आनंद कंदा
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत शिष्यमत His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai.
जय
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
जय
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
जय
Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
जय
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
जय
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
जय
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
जय
Ganga Mai ki jai.
जय
Jamuna Mai ki jai.
जय
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
जय
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
जय
Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
जय
Gaur Prem Anande.
हरि हरि बोल
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे कृष्णा
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे कृष्णा
All glories to the assembled devotees.
हरे
कृष्णा
All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda.
We're studying the Caitanya Caritamrita. Adi Leela, we're in Adi Leela. We've taken a detour. 7th chapter, which is called Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. 34th verse. Well, the Kavita is not here today, so I'll have to do the Bengali. So you have to excuse me. Chabish Batsar Chila Grihasta Ashrame Pancha Vingshati Barshe Koila Jati Dharme. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in householder life for 24 years, and on the verge of his 25th year, he accepted the sannyas order. Purport: there are 4 orders of spiritual life, namely Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And in each of these ashramas, there are 4 divisions. The divisions of the Brahmachari ashram are Savitriya, Prajapatya, Brahma, and Brihat. And the divisions of the Grihastha ashrama are Varta, Sanchaya, Shalina, those who do not ask anything from anyone, and Shilochan, those who collect grains from the paddy fields. Similarly, the divisions of the Vanaprastha ashram are Baikanas, Valakilya, Audumbara, and Penapa. And the divisions of sannyas are Kutichak, Bahudak, Hangsa, and Nishkriya. There are 2 kinds of sannyasis who are called Dhiras and Narottamas, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:13, 26, 27. At the end of the month of January, in the year 1432 Shakabda, AD 1510, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the sannyas order from Keshava Bharati, who belonged to the Shankara Sampradaya. Questions and comments? Of these different divisions of the different ashrams, Srila Prabhupada has commented in several places about the divisions of sannyas. Here it says Kutichak, Bahudak, Hangsa, and Niskriya. Sometimes it's also described as Kutichak, Bahudak, Paribrajak Acharya, and Paramahamsa. Different stages of sannyas. At the beginning, Kutichak, renounced person who takes sannyas, leaves the home and the village that he'll be living in, and goes outside that village and lives in a hut, doing spiritual life, and somebody brings him his prasadam. Next stage, Bahudak, is he say, why should people bother doing me service? So in Bahudak, the person goes door to door in the village and does madhukari. They take a little bit asking, they beg from door to door and ask people a little bit from each one. Not that he gets a bag of rice and a bag of dal from the next person and keeps it, but just what he needs. Bahuda.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question here. So
Yeah.
what about women? This is for the men, right? So what about
That's right.
women?
That's right.
I know, but what about women?
In the women, when the man takes sannyas, the woman might either go under the protection of her grown-up children or go to a holy place and stay there.
This
That's
was
the
back
bit.
then, right? Back then.
Still, yeah.
No,
In the
Prabhuji.
Vedic system,
Times have changed. Women have changed. Women have evolved. Women are equal to men. Actually, more than men.
sometimes that may be true, but the system is in the Vedic system. We don't have. There are not women sannyasis. No. There may be renounced ladies, and sometimes that happens, but they never take a formal position of sannyas. That's the system. Even although in ISKCON it was tried a couple of times after Prabhupada left, but it didn't work. Not that it was sanctioned by authorities, but is Sangeeta there? I saw her on. No? Okay. Anyway, that's the system. The verse in the Bhagavad Gita about that is Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti ya sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir chakriya. So one shouldn't be so too concerned about the labels, but a person who's not attached to the fruits of work, anashrita karma pal means the fruits of work, who's not attached to it, karyam karma karoti ya, but engages as they should be engaged. Karyam karma karoti ya. And what is that? How you're supposed to be engaged in Krishna service. So sannyasi cha yogi cha. That person is a sannyasi and a yogi. Not niragnir na chakra. Not that person who just retires and doesn't light fire or do work. So even though a woman is not officially in ISKCON, it's not officially recognized as sannyasi, they can be as good as a sannyasi by engaging fully in devotional service. Some other comment?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so familiar about the other ashram different stages. I heard about the sannyas, the 4 stages, the grihastha. You should also brahmacharya and vanaprastha also. You are reading?
Yes.
I mean, could you tell a little bit more about it? I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
those.
I didn't even finish the sannyas part. There was a little
It's coming.
That's okay. I'll so then after the person goes door to door and begs, then the next thing is they think, well, why should I be so concerned? I'll just Paribrajak Acharya. Paribrajak Acharya, I mean, they travel all over the place, not even concerned what food they're going to get. They think Krishna will take give me what I need. Paribrajak Acharya, just like we say, Tadvidi pariprashnena, tadvidi paripatena, pariprashnena. Prashna means question, and pariprashna means all kinds of questions all around. So Brajak going all around, the Paribrajak Acharya goes all around, not concerned with their maintenance, depending on Krishna for their maintenance. And then the last one, Niskriya or Paramahansa, means they're completely, fully Krishna conscious. So these stages are meant to help one become more and more renounced from material attachments, not only brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So as your question, Mother Sudevi, about the different stages of the brahmachari and grihastha, etc. I don't know much about them either. I looked, I couldn't find much. The only other one that that there's some discussion about is in the grihastha ashram. You see there's the professionals and the accumulators. So there's a more emphasis on establishing a material base, and then those who collect grains from the paddy field. Sometimes it's said that the salochana is they go to the market and leftovers they take. So they're not so that's a more getting to be a more renounced position. They're just taking leftover fruits, vegetables, grains that are left in the market, not trying to accumulate. But I don't know much. I don't know anything more. Maybe perhaps someone else does. No. Okay. Well, if I find something, I'll let you know. So this Lord Chaitanya is 24. So this was Indian system years. Indian system years, because Lord Chaitanya appeared what month, what year? AD, Western system, or Julian calendar? Was it Julian calendar? Yeah. What year?
1486.
Yeah. So this would be 20. 1510 minus 1486 would be 24. But it was January, and his appearances was in March or end of February actually that time. So he hadn't quite reached the 24th year, but because on the verge of his 25th year means Indian system, they think, well, this year is the next, it's the 25th year that we're going to complete. Like Srila Prabhupada came to the United States in what year?
1965.
65.
That's right. Very good. Very good. And what year was his appearance?
1896.
1896.
So how old did they say Prabhupada was when he came to United States?
70.
Yeah, but it's actually from the western side is 69, but in his 70th year, right? Because 1896 and 1965 is 69, right? Yes. Make sense? Okay. So we go to the next verse. Sanyas Korea Prabhu Koila Akarshan Jateka Palanchila Tarkika Digan. After accepting the sannyas order, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attracted the attention of all those who had evaded him, beginning with the logicians. Next verse. Paduya Pashandi Karmi Nindakadi Jat Tara Asi Prabhupai Hoy Avanant. Thus, the students, infidels, fruitive workers, and critics all came to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So, can anybody say what what's being talked about here? We've been maybe bring everybody up to speed.
I did not hear the question.
Oh, so this is talking about the logicians and all those people. How does that fit into this activities of Lord Chaitanya here?
So prior to him getting the sannyas, nobody gave him any respect. But post sannyasi attire and lifestyle, everybody started respecting him, and everybody started surrendering to him.
Good. Yeah. So it's not that no one respected him. Many people did respect him, hundreds of thousands, when he wanted to contest the Kazi's order to do Sankirtan, because the Chand Kazi, who was the administrator in Navadvip, gave an order that no one can perform Sankirtan. So they did Lord Chaitanya arranged a civil disobedience demonstration of Sankirtan. And just as one request, over 100,000 people showed up. A big crowd. So it's not that there no notaries, but there were certain classes, certain sections of society. They were resistant, and as you said, well said, is that when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, because it was the tradition to give respect to a sannyasi in any case. So many of the people that Lord Chaitanya that had resisted Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement came under the sway of the flood of love of Godhead. So thus the students, infidels, fruitive workers, and critics all came to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Because the Panchatattva were spreading an ocean, a wave of love of Godhead, and it was inundating practically everybody, but some people escaped. And these were some of the people who escaped: students, infidels, fruitive workers, and critics. But there was another category, so we're going to see about that next. Aparadha Kshamaila Dubila Prema Jale Keba Edaibe Prabhur Prema Mahajale. Lord Chaitanya excused them all, and they merged into the ocean of devotional service, for no one can escape the unique loving network of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an ideal acharya. An acharya is an ideal teacher who knows the purport of the revealed scriptures, behaves exactly according to their injunctions, and teaches his students to adopt these principles also. As an ideal acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu devised ways to capture all kinds of atheists and materialists. Every acharya has a specific means of propagating his spiritual movement with the aim of bringing men to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the method of one acharya may be different from that of another, but the ultimate goal is never neglected. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends, Tasmat kenapyapayena mana Krishne naveshayet sarve vidhi nishedhasyur etayor eva kinkara. An acharya should devise a means by which people may somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness. First, they should become Krishna conscious, and all the prescribed rules and regulations may later gradually be introduced. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we follow this policy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For example, since boys and girls in the Western countries freely intermingle, special concessions regarding their customs and habits are necessary to bring them to Krishna consciousness. The acharya must devise a means to bring them to devotional service. Therefore, although I am a sannyasi, I sometimes take part in getting boys and girls married. Although in the history of sannyas, no sannyasi has personally taken part in marrying his disciples. Questions or comments here?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
It's no longer Western countries, Prabhu, Eastern countries too. India has caught up.
Yes. Oh, about the intermingling. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So the point is that the most important point is to introduce Krishna consciousness. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita that says that all the purposes of the little ponds or little wells can be served when you go to the big reservoir of water, say a big lake or a river. similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served for someone who knows the purpose behind them. So the purpose of the Vedas, the whole purpose of the Vedas, is to bring people to Krishna consciousness. Vedaischa sarvair ahang eva vedyo. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that by all the Vedas, I am to be known. Another nice verse is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It goes, Atat pumbir dvija shreshta varnashrama vibhagasha swanustitasya dharmasya sansidhir haritoshanam. That there are different rules and regulations given in the Vedas according to Varna and Ashram. Varnashrama vibhagasha. All the different categories of Varna and Ashram are there. The perfection of those activities according to Varna and Ashram is to satisfy Hari, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. And if one performs the duty of Varna and Ashram very detailed and carefully, but doesn't satisfy Hari or get attachment or attraction to hear about Hari, then their life has failed. So the essence of the Vedic literature, as what Lord Caitanya is doing, is attracting people, engaging people in Krishna, the Hare Krishna Sankirtan movement, encouraging people to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And even, Prabhupada didn't press in the beginning, in the very beginning, following the regulative principles, on day one. If you look at the date of that notice that he gave, it was November of 1965. So first thing is chant Hare Krishna. And then, of course, you want to advance in chanting Hare Krishna. These four regulative principles are essential. But first, chant the holy names. Chant the holy names. Chant the holy names. Beginning, that's Krishna consciousness.
When sannyasis are not supposed to marry people, why did this Prabhupada, why did Srila Prabhupada violate that principle? Because in a sense, when you are a sannyasi, you are not supposed to. Why did he violate that principle?
Well, he doesn't elaborate here, but my understanding is, and others can put their understanding, is that because in the Western countries, as Prabhupada says, men and women were intermingling more freely, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. So in order to establish the importance of not just running around with various partners, accept one partner and stay in married life as a grihasta. Who else is going to do that? Who else was going to do that in the society? He was the leader, so he had to show that was an important part of basic religious life, is not to have many partners, sexual partners, but to live with one wife, one husband, and be satisfied with that, and go forward. So nobody else was going to do that. So he had to do that. He was the leader. Mother Sudevi, what would you say? No? Okay. All right.
Oh, yes, Prabhu. Yeah, you said it right. Because there was nobody else to do anything. Not only that, he taught everything from, from the beginning. And one devotee, Srila Prabhupada, said, Srila Prabhupada was the only adult in the beginning. Everybody
that's
was.
Right. Good point. Good point. And it's interesting that later in ISKCON, people would ask him to perform the marriage, and he withdrew from that. Although in the beginning he did some marriages, later he didn't, following the more regular system in Vedas that sannyasi doesn't involve in the marriage system. So that's according to
Also,
time and
it's
circumstance, he adjusts
Prabhu
it.
is also time, place, and circumstances. Is the
Yes,
circumstances of that.
yes,
So, that to preach Krishna consciousness, we have to,
yes,
be aware of time, place, and circumstances. Have to utilize different things,
yes. So
different method, different principle.
So if he hadn't done that, then those devotees, what would have happened to them? So he encouraged that, and he actually showed that he encouraged them to get married as and live as grihastas for that time. Good point. Thank you. Next verse.
This is the one, Prabhu.
Okay. Shaba nishtari te Prabhu kripa avatar. Shaba nishtari te kore chaturi apar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to deliver all the fallen souls. Therefore, he devised many methods to liberate them from the clutches of Maya. Purport. It is the concern of the Acharya to show mercy to the fallen souls. Here, we're just as you were saying. Mother Golokananda. In this connection, Desha, Kala, Patra. I can't see that now. Desha, Kala, Patra. The place, the time, and the object should be taken into consideration. Since the European and American boys and girls in our Krishna consciousness movement preach together, less intelligent men criticize that they are mingling without restriction. In Europe and America, boys and girls mingle unrestrictedly and have equal rights. Therefore, it is not possible to completely separate the men from the women. However, we are thoroughly instructing both men and women how to preach. And actually, they are preaching wonderfully. Of course, we very strictly prohibit illicit sex. Boys and girls who are not married are not allowed to sleep together or live together. And there are separate arrangements for boys and girls in every temple. Grihastas live outside the temple, for in the temple, we do not allow even husband and wife to live together. The results of this are wonderful. Both men and women are preaching the gospel of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna with redoubled strength. In this verse, the word Shaba Nishtari Te Kore Chaturi Apar indicate that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to deliver one and all. Therefore, it is a principle that a preacher must strictly follow the rules and regulations laid down in the Shastras, yet at the same time devise a means by which the preaching work to reclaim the fallen may go on with full force. So that first line is to show mercy to all the fallen souls. Srila Prabhupada quoted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saying that Lord Chaitanya didn't advent just to deliver a few souls in India. He came to deliver, as it says here, all the fallen souls. That means everyone on the planet, and there are different continents on this planet. So sometimes it's thought that Krishna consciousness means spreading Indian culture. Not exactly, no. Krishna consciousness means spreading chanting of the holy names and the principles of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And when it's consistent, when the Vedic culture is consistent, or the Indian culture is consistent with those principles, yes, we'll adopt that. The principle is whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, that should be accepted, or devotional service, that should be accepted. And things that are not favorable should be rejected. Some comments or questions here?
I think ISKCON and Indian culture cannot be, they are not two separate entities, Prabhuji. They are kind of
Nobody said they
intertwined.
were. No one said they were. But so, for example, in Indian culture, many people will say that it's important to worship all the gods. In fact, in the early days of ISKCON, there were some people that used to come to the temple, and they said, "Well, you people say only worship Krishna," and we get mad. We get damn mad when people say that, because in our custom, we worship all the gods. Well, that custom isn't consistent with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Kama istaishta rita prapadyante anya devata. People who have some material motivation, they are worshiping other gods. Anya devata. Yepi anya devata bhakta yajanti shraddhayanvita tepi mam eva kaunteya yajanti avidipurvakam. That means that those people who are worshiping other gods, even though they do it with faith, they're actually misguided. Avidhi. Vidhi means by rules and regulations. Avidhi. They're misguided. They're not following because that service is really meant for me. So that's one example. Well, there are many examples. We can't just necessarily. The purpose of the Vedic directions is to instill Krishna consciousness in people. So when the when the custom is consistent with that, yes, that's true, but it's not always consistent. And I gave the example. Any other examples you'd like to cite?
One other example is it why we worship Krishna, because Krishna is the root of everything. So if you pour water on the root, all the branches, everything got satisfied. So we don't need to satisfy each and every 33 million demigods, thereby worshiping, Krishna, everybody's satisfied.
Very good point. Very important point. Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, there are certain things that have developed in Indian culture which are not consistent with Krishna consciousness. So those things we may not accept. We won't accept them. But many things there are conducive to Krishna consciousness. Then, for example, in Krishna consciousness, we don't eat any meat, fish, or eggs. And many people, probably a greater portion of the Indian population is vegetarian than in many other countries, especially in the United States, particularly the United States, although it's probably changing now. So we accept that, but it's not just we are devotees are vegetarian because it's Indian culture. We want to offer all our food to Krishna, and that way it becomes pleasing to Krishna and becomes prashadam. So it's we'll take that part of the Indian culture of the vegetarian, but Krishna is it, yeah.
Back home in India, there are lots of holidays for the schools. So right from childhood, we are all given holidays like Ganesh Chaturthi, it's a holiday. Different gods are recognized. So the Indian government itself recognizes all his gods. So growing up, you go to middle school, high school, elementary school. So we recognize all gods. So that's why we worship all the gods, because it was built into the system.
It's maybe built into the system, but there's also quite often a misunderstanding that all the gods are the same, or just this different aspects of the same impersonal different manifestations of the impersonal Brahman. So the Bhagavad Gita and the Krishna conscious philosophy is Ganapati will be pleased most if you worship Krishna, the master of Ganapati. Lord Shiva will be pleased most if you worship Krishna. That verse is there. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhana param. This was spoken by Lord Shiva when his wife asked him, my dear husband, what kind of service, what kind of worship do you like best? Do you think is best? Aradhananam sarvesham. And Lord Shiva answered, of all kinds of worship, of Aradhanam sarvesham, Vishnu aradhana param. Lord Vishnu worship is the best. So he's concluding, this is Lord Shiva's opinion. So on Shivaratri, which is coming up, the best way to serve Lord Shiva is to worship Krishna. He's pleased by that. It's not that we disrespect any of the demigods. No, we respect everyone, and the demigods also, because they're servants of Krishna. Although they may be sagun, like Lord Indra, he wanted to kill Krishna in the Govardhan Leela, etc. Lord Brahma tried to kidnap Krishna's associates. So sometimes they get deviated from their service. But the best way to worship Krishna, best way to worship any of the demigods is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their master. That's what Lord Shiva says. So one time devotees were, I think it was Giriraj Maharaj, the devotees were invited to a program, and it was during Shivaratri time. So everybody was offering flower petals to Shiva Linga. And Srila Prabhupada was there, and so he wanted to see what Srila Prabhupada did in that circumstance, whether he took the flowers and offered them to the Shiva Linga. And Srila Prabhupada took the flowers, and then on the side there happened to be a picture of Krishna. So he took the flowers and offered to that picture of Krishna. So that we say that's pleasing to Lord Shiva, Ganesh, all the demigods. Because as Mother Golokananda Priya very nicely said, Krishna is the source and the root of all those demigods. So when he is pleased, all the creation is pleased, including those demigods. And that's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So it's not that and we're not saying that you shouldn't have a celebration for Ganesh or for Shiva, but we said that the most important part of that celebration should be recognizing, appreciating, and serving the source of Ganesh and Kartikeya, etc. That's Krishna. Oh, okay. Some others.
Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarva loka mahesharam suridham sarva bhutanam gyatamam santirichati.
Oh, you know that verse, Mother Sudevi, very good. We call that the peace formula, right? Can you translate it line by line?
And Bhoktaram, so Krishna is the enjoyer of all the sacrifice, and he's the Lord of all the demigods and all planets. And if everybody wants to be happy and peaceful,
Yes, Suhridam. So
he's
he's the best friend of everybody. Yeah. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's the Lord of all the planets. And Bhokta means the enjoyer of the sacrifices. So sometimes in the Vedas, there's different sacrifices recommended. Sometimes you can perform a sacrifice for the higher planets, etc., or for this demigod or that demigod. But before, at the beginning of all the mantras, there's the mantra Omkara. Om Tod Vishnu Paramam Padam. So because it's recognized that without Krishna's sanction, the demigods can't do anything. Omkara. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Suraya. The demigods, the suras, they're all looking to the lotus feet of Vishnu for their sanction, for his sanction and blessings and pleasure. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Suraya. Pashanti means looking to, and Surya, the demigods, are looking to Paramam Param, Vishnu, the supreme destination. Okay, yeah, this is good stuff. I thank you very much for your questions and comments. And
there's one thing I want to read that from the translation. He devised many plans. He devised many plans. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu devised many plans. He wanted to deliver everyone. So Prabhupada, whatever he did, based on the time place, that's another plan to deliver the souls. And I think that also applies to all of us, right?
yes, I mean, you're making a very good point, and therefore we should study. I mean, we should study carefully how Srila Prabhupada did things as the Acharya, how he dealt with certain situations, certain cultural and social situations in different, because that gives us insight and appreciation and understanding of perhaps how we might be able to follow in his footsteps in a similar situation. That's very important.
What I don't like about Prabhupada is, he should have got his wife also on that Jalduta and brought him to brought. I think she was alive, right? He should have brought the wife too.
But Srila Prabhupada took sannyas in 1959.
That's what I don't understand. You should take sannyas prior to marriage. Why do you want to marry somebody and dump that woman and then get into sannyas? So you want to enjoy the best of both sides of the world. Like that's not fair to do that to a woman.
His wife was not favorable also for him to.
The standard, the Vedic system is this. The Vedic system is there's 4 ashrams: brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. The purpose of the Vedic method is, the Vedic system was to help a person become free from material entanglements. So one of the strongest material entanglements is husband and wife, the material attachments. So it was recommended in the Vedic system that everybody retire from their married life at a certain point. Traditionally it's at 50. So that the beginning, that's called vanaprast. Vanaprast means the husband and wife will travel together to different places, holy places, to hear from sadhus, saintly persons. And then at the last part of life, it's recommended that the women go back home to their children or to a holy place, and the man takes sannyas. That's the system. Srila Prabhupada, as someone mentioned, I didn't hear exactly. Prabhupada, when he left home, he was having some conflict with his wife, that she took his Srimad Bhagavatams that he was using to study and sold them for, what was that? Some tea biscuits, was it?
Yeah.
So at that time he said, well, you can, he was actually a very dedicated provider, making businesses in Allahabad and Bengal, also working for Bengal Chemical, that he has had his own pharmacy. But he said, well, you can make your choice. You could take, you can continue your tea, or you can have me. Which is your choice? And she said, I'll take the tea. So Prabhupada, that time
she was not left with choice. She would have wanted to live with him lifelong.
Well, I mean, those
But
are all
what choices
speculations.
did he give?
Those are all speculations, and you can have your opinion. That's fine, but we can also hear the opinion of the discussion of why Srila Prabhupada did that. His spiritual master, when he was just a young man, his spiritual master told him that you should spread this Krishna consciousness to the Western world, and he did that. So he was doing that. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the last part, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. He said, Arjun was saying there's so many different kinds of duties, important duties I have to do. Why should I fight? Well, Krishna says there's so many duties in life. You have so many duties, but this is the most important duty, and that is to serve me. Krishna says that. So that's what Srila Prabhupada did, and we're not saying that you have to agree with that. That's your choice, but I think many of the devotees here agree that that's the primary focus. If his wife, she had her chance to help him, but she blew it. So that's what happened. All respect meant, no disrespect meant, but that's what happened.
There are thousands of people who have joined the army for the higher purpose, to protect the citizens. And Prabhupada, the benefit of the whole world, entrusted his wife in the hands of his children.
Yes.
And we cannot see so many. It's very okay. Another man would have taken care of
A
wife.
She would have wanted to be with him and traveled with him around the world. And at least after he got so much name and fame.
Speculation. I'm sorry, this is just speculation. You don't know what she would want it or not to. So this is just speculation. So let's go on. I think it's we're already at 8:45. Krishna Kirtan, you were trying to finish your point. You go ahead.
Yeah. So just as to protect the citizens, so many people are sacrificing, compromising in their life. And Prabhupada, at the end of life, in the old days, otherwise, he gave for the higher purpose to save the world. So that's also biggest service to the humanity. It's not like that. Every woman is in this ashram, woman is neglected, that handed over to the right person in their care, and service is done. So we can follow if we can. It's not possible with everyone, and because he did it, he's been worshipped, and we have been benefited because of that. If you would not have done, we would not have been benefited. So I think Mother Renuka, just let's read Bhagavad Gita. Itself will answer many questions. Please read carefully on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
If I could just make one quick announcement.
Sure.
Today, good news, positive news. Yesterday, I made the announcement that to pray for Caritamrita Prabhu. He was going into his surgery yesterday. And the good news is I got a text from his wife yesterday that it went very well, and that he's recovering. And she's very grateful for the prayers that were sent his way. So thank you. I just want to give you that update.
Great. Thank you.
Tonight, we have our Bhagavad Gita reading at 5 to 5:30. So please join us for that, our happy hour of Bhagavad Gita.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Glories
much.
to Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpa
Prabhupada.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Vishnu Prabhu.
Thank you, Vishnu Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Shakti.